Hi guys! Do you like star-shaped flowers? The ones that are fragrant but also has different shapes and colors? So today we'll talk about the beautiful Belearas or Alicearas. I have one, it's a no idea one that I got from a local flower shop and I need to repot it. So if that is of your interest, stay here with me and let's report and talk about these plants together. I have here not one of them, just a beautiful Oncidium or Intergeneric that it's in bloom at the moment. It's an orange one with a very long flower spike and it is in a massive pot. And I want to just show you this beauty before we start. I will put it in its place now and I'm gonna grab, it can be here, but I hope it doesn't distract your view too much. Because the other one is nothing very interesting, so it's just here. That's a discounted Aliceara that I found in a local garden center. I've recorded a video where I show you one garden center, a local garden center in London. That's where I got this one. It was in sale, so I paid maybe a 60% off. I said, why not? That it was an Aliceara, I think, somewhere. I'm not sure. I think it is one of them. It's one intergeneric. Looking at the shape of the pseudobulb, it's very similar to other Alicearas and Belearas that I have here at my house. What I love about these plants is that usually their flowers are large and they star-shaped flowers. They are gorgeous. It's one of my favorite intergenerics. If you don't know Belearas, I have one that's the famous roof peg carpenter. It's a purple one and it's beautiful, gorgeous. It's a very large plant. These intergenerics, they are a cross between Oncidiums, Miltonias, and also Brassias, the famous spider orchids, and that they are gorgeous. I found them, I don't know, very beautiful, and the advantage is that you can find them in local flower shops and garden centers in Europe. If you live in Europe, I'm sure in Brazil you can find them as well. And I don't think it must be really difficult in other regions of the world. If you live somewhere else that's difficult to find these plants, let me know down below. What I need to do with this one, I have it for a few weeks now and I haven't repotted yet. So I need to come to this plant straight away. Oncidiums and intergenerics in general, they are prone to have snails on their roots, munching on their roots. Snails, they attack orchid roots, especially newer roots. So you need to use hydrogen peroxide 3% to kill any snails and traces of snails that this plant may have. And offer a new medium, a new mix. This mix probably is a very old one. You can see that the bark is very old, it's degrading. So we need to change completely the medium and place it in a new pot. I already have a pot that's gonna be almost the same dimensions as this one. It's a 12 centimeters pot. That's probably around 10 inches. It's like a normal size for an orchid. I repotted today with my usual mix, that's bark and moss. So if you wanna do it with me, or if you wanna drink a tea or something, or eat your food while I repot this plant, I will put my tray here and I will start. I hope you enjoy it. The first thing that you have to do with a new orchid, such as this one, and just to mention that this orchid has a new growth, which is amazing for repotting time. It will start pushing new roots. This new growth will give my orchid a greater chance of surviving in the new environment, since it will push a completely new root system. Now, what you have to do with your orchid is basically press gentle on the pot for all of the roots to detach from it and start pulling out your orchid from its pot. So gently, making sure that everything is out, and that's how I'm gonna do it. Yay, my orchid's out of its pot. Let's take all of these away. Can you see here? That's how the root system is. The next step is we will start removing all of this old medium from the root system. I have here the bamboo that was attached to it. I have some new root chips coming. I can see here and there. Which is a very good sign. There is a new root here. Look how beautiful it is. I don't know if you can see. This white thing here, it's a new root. I need to be very careful with these ones They will be responsible for my plant, to hydrate my plant, and for my plant to grow healthily. And then you keep doing it slowly but surely, removing all of the old medium that you see on your plant. There is an old pseudobulb here on the back that I'm not going to remove because this plant doesn't have many pseudobulbs, has only 3 and 1 new growth. So you need to keep as many as possible in order to hydrate your plant and to give it better chance of surviving. And I don't want to lose my new orchid. It has cocoa coir in the plug. Usually when these orchids were a baby, they were potted in a plug, so the plug is in the center, in the middle of the orchid. The plug is still there, I can feel it. I'm removing the plugs, a very fine medium with some bark piece. So you keep doing it, and when you finish removing all of the old mix, ideally you should go to a sink and rinse the root system. So after I finish removing everything, I'm going to the sink. I will speed up the process now, and when I'm back, you will see the rinsed root system. I have my orchid here. I've already rinsed the root system. The next step is to look into these roots and check which ones are good to go and the ones that I need to cut. How I know that I need to cut or remove some of the roots? First of all, we can start with the older pseudobulb. That's the one on the back here. Usually all the roots related to this pseudobulb, they will be dead, but they are in the middle of the root ball. And then we have this one that's also an old pseudobulb, and I can see here that some of the roots towards the center, they are dead. How I know that? If you gentle touch on the root system and you notice the development comes off and it's very mushy, that means that these roots probably dead. So these roots, you can cut them away. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I start cutting all of the roots. I have a ball of roots here. Usually Oncidiums and Intergenerics, they do push through many roots, so it's a little bit difficult to repot them, but let's do our best. So let's start checking and cutting some of these roots, shall we? So most of the roots are gone. I think if they were not dead, they were in the process of dying. And these ones, they have root tips that are growing, and I have some new roots growing as well. So hopefully this orchid will fill its pot very quickly. What I'm gonna do now is spray hydrogen peroxide 3% on the root system and in between the sheets of my orchid to avoid any snail. And I think I saw a snail egg in between the median here, so I don't want these to grow. As you can see, you can be quite deliberate with the hydrogen peroxide. Look, with Oncidiums, it's a good idea to remove the sheets, the old sheets, because it can hide some pests behind it. So we remove that, and in between the new growth here, I will also spray some hydrogen peroxide. You remove everything, as you can see. And in between all of the pseudobulbs, I'm also spraying hydrogen peroxide, just to make sure. What we need to make sure is we don't have any snails left. I will wait for it to freeze for a minute or so, and that's it. I will clean my tray, and let's finally repot this plant. So I have here my plant, some bark, some moss. What I do with Intergenerics, I place a little bit more moss than when I repot my Phalaenopsis and Cattleyas, because They dry out faster, although I live in a cold country, but they drink a lot of water. So to avoid having to water them more than I water my other orchids, I usually place a little bit more of moss than the amount of moss that I offer to my Phalaenopsis and Cattleyas. I place a layer of moss on the bottom, so when I water my plants, I can leave a little bit of water on the tray, and the moss will suck the water like in an osmosis system or some sort of, it's like a sponge. So we'll suck the water, distribute the water around the pot. So I place a little bit of moss and some bark, and I start laying both of materials. The important thing here is that the moss should be very fluffy to not suffocate the roots. So you don't compress your moss, you just place it very loosely around your pot. And I will keep doing it, just layering both materials. Let's see if it fits already. Another thing that I like to do is basically place the older growth towards the edge of one of the pots, so my plant will have more space to grow. Now I will keep adding some more moss. It's important that all of these strands of moss, they communicate with each other so they can distribute moist around the pot. So that's what I'm doing here. Very fluffy. Just to offer it some air, since there's an epiphyte plant, I drew some holes on the plastic pot, so it is aerated as well. Now we will add the last layer of moss. There are some places that you can pot these plants in full sphagnum moss. If you live in a very dry and hot country, for example, you can add some fluffy moss and repot it completely in moss. You can also pot it completely in bark. Like for my environment, for example, bark is perfect. It's amazing. It works very, very well. The only reason why I don't use only bark is because with bark, usually, I need to soak the root system from time to time to make sure the whole thing is watered, and I don't have time to do that. Since I have 108 orchids, if I decide to soak everyone and then throw all of the water away, I would be watering my plants for a long, long time. And busy life, I don't have time. Lately, I've been dreading. Like watering has been very, very difficult because I've been working long hours and all that. It's normal, but yeah, that's the reason why I use both materials together. I have here some beads of slow release fertilizer, so I will add some beads on my pot. It helps the plant to grow healthily. And then I will finally place the last layer of bark. It's just to avoid some algae formation. I have less light touching the moss, but you don't need to do it, only if you want to do it. What I advise you to do is find a very good quality of moss and bark in your region. At least look for it. See if you have places that sells, I don't know, New Zealand sphagnum moss, for example. If it doesn't cost a fortune, if it's easy for you to find, because they last longer and you don't need to repot your plants very often. My moss is really, really good, but the bark is just one that I found locally. I will buy Orchiata bark again soon. Here in the UK, you can find it. I think there is a seller called Orchid Accessories or something like that, if you want to search for it. They sell only orchid accessories there, so you can find very good quality, but I think the shipping is not very cheap. So if you want to buy, I would advise you to buy more than one product together. That's what I do. But the last time that I bought some bark, I bought on Amazon because I couldn't order both products together. So I bought on Amazon. I linked the Amazon bark that I use as well down below. But I cannot find the good quality sphagnum moss on Amazon, so I buy with them. If you want to look online, I'm not earning anything. It's just because I think it's a good tip, especially when you're starting. It's very important to find good materials, and it's quite difficult in the beginning. Anyway, enough blab. My plant is potted finally. What I will do now, I will water it, and I will conclude this video. I will return in 1 second. Just to conclude, my plant is potted, fully potted. What you have to do after you repot your plant is offer it some water, especially if the mix that you chose is dry. In my case, the sphagnum moss was dry, so I need to offer this plant some water because I don't want to stress it further. Another thing very important for you to know is that maybe in the next week, all of the pseudobulbs will become completely shrinked. That's because we probably cut some good roots on the way, although we try to avoid. It usually happens when we repot our plants. And this plant won't be hydrating itself as well as it was before. Or maybe some of the good roots will die because this plant is adapting to the new environment. It's stressed. We try to minimize the stress that we cause to our plants, but it may happen. If that happens, don't worry too much, don't stress out too much. Just water your plant normally, and when the newer growth push out a brand new root system, your plant will be fully hydrated and will be able to perform as well as it was before, because now I'm sure it's completely clean of pests and it's in a completely brand new medium that I hope it will stay like that for the next 2 years. Who knows, I can update you with beautiful flowers in the future, especially the star-shaped flowers that everybody loves so much. The last thing before I go is when you water your plant, be careful with the newer growth. Don't let any water trapped in between the leaves or the newer growth because you can rot it. If you rot this plant, it's going to be very difficult for you to have a healthier plant because the newer growth is basically how this plant will produce the newer root system and will be able to thrive. So that's the last tip for this video. If you enjoy it, please hit the like button, leave a comment down below, and I will see you next week. Bye bye!